Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the NAISCC Track Racer Cup Series. We're close to halfway through the regular season for Season 4. It's race number 6 at the Simbox Store 180 at Dover. As the drivers currently taking qualifying times right now, Dover, the Monster Mile, going to be one of the hardest tracks here this season. Well, it makes it even more difficult. The drivers here tonight, throughout the season, has been a talking point on fast repairs. There will be 0 fast repairs for these drivers, so if they get damaged, they're going to have to deal with it. Tonight, my name is Sam Dyer, and joining me is going to be that of Brandon Robinson, as well as Robert Moyer, going to be our producer for tonight's evening. Brandon, no fast repair. These drivers are going to have to be tiptoeing their way throughout the night.
Yeah, they really will, not just for tonight, but obviously, as you said, throughout the season. And, this was a decision that the admins really left to the drivers. There was a driver vote, and in the Discord, it said that the majority of drivers voted for this. So it's not like they all woke up one day and admin said, hey, we're making this change, deal with it. Nope, it was voted on for the drivers, and I think what they're looking for, Sam, is the obvious. Let's close down on some of these cautions. Let's get a little bit more professional out there on the track, especially when we start entering this tougher part of the schedule. You said it right now in the Monster Mile. This is going to be a difficult track for these guys here tonight, but also moving on to next week, we're going to be at Watkins Glen. So you're absolutely right. 2 difficult tracks in a row, no fast repairs to work with, and I expect a lot of drivers to give each other some space early on.
Yeah, and it's just going to get more and more difficult from here. We have Dover here tonight, Watkins Glen, then drivers go to Michigan, Las Vegas, and they've got their all-star break. And then the last couple of races before the finale of the season, going to be at Nashville Fairgrounds, Nashville Super Speedway, and finishing out the regular season at Homestead. So they've got still a very tough rest of the schedule for a lot of these drivers. But Brandon, I was looking at the schedule, looking at the stats. Crazy to think we're 5 races in. Tonight's going to be race number 6, and we've had 5 different winners. Tonight, we could be seeing our 6th different winner or our first multi-time winner of the season at Dover. And there's a lot of eyes on some of those drivers that haven't won this season yet. As we're looking at them, the Hello Kitty machine, Cedric Hunter, looking for a win himself. And I was talking to some of the drivers before qualifying started. They were saying, hey, Cedric Hunter could be one of the drivers that could sneak away with a win. But I'll get the other hand, last season's Dover winner, Brian Johnson, looking just as fast and dominant out there on course.
Yeah, and that's really what you want when you join a league and it's a long season. Sometimes one of the biggest turnoffs on a league is when you have a Kyle Larson effect, if you will, where there's just one guy going in. He's won 3 of the first 5 or 4 of the first 6, etc. It really starts to turn drivers off. But when you're in a league like this one, where we've had 5 different races, 5 different winners, everybody in Discord on a week-to-week basis says, hey, this could be my week. Let me go put in some more practice. Let me make sure I'm laser focused for Saturday night, because this 6th week, I want to be that 6th different driver to take a checker.
Yeah, and for a lot of these drivers, it's going to be about survival all night long. But, man, after last week's race, the emotion so high for that of Tom Sinchek, finally getting a win in such an emotional race for himself. Man, I know I wasn't there up in the booth, but it was amazing to watch the finale of that race, Brandon, and it just makes you more, empathetic for Tom Sinchek and a win that was so important for himself last week, winning for his friend. And also, coming into, today, where that emotions you're trying to carry over and that momentum to try to get another win for himself.
Well, not to mention, Sam, with that win last week, Tom Sinchek now does sit on top of the point standings with 214 total points, taking that lead from Brian Johnson, who looked to be the early favorite last week. He's at 212. So really right now, Tom Sinchek, Brian Johnson, right up there at the top, 214, 212 apiece. Cedric Hunter in 3rd with 178 points. Aaron Kralik in 4th, tied with Vincent Sora. And Danny Cochran right there in 5th. So you're right. A lot of momentum coming in here tonight, not only because of that emotional win last week with Tom Sinchek, but also coming in here tonight with the points lead. He's feeling really good about where he sits.
Absolutely. As we take a look here at our Simbox store qualifying results, it's going to be that of Brian Johnson taking the pole position with Vincent Sora in second, Kyle Rochelle in third, with that of Nick Crawford, going to be in fourth, Zach Hall in fifth, Danny Cochran going to be in sixth place, seventh goes to that of James Loveland, that of Brandon Jenks going to be in eighth, with Sean Hutztetler in ninth, and Ethan Smith going to be finishing out your top 10.
Yeah, and right outside the top 10 there, you got Thomas Green in 11th, Martin Morales 12th. David Medina looking for a bounce back here in this league. He joined us in the booth last week, did a phenomenal job there in 13th. Aaron Kralik 14th, Alex Light 15th. Rye Lewis in 16th, Dylan Walterman 17th, Maurice Gamillion, Adam Westfield, and Thomas Walter rounding out your top 20.
Some surprise drivers to be further back. 21st finds Cedric Hunter. 22nd, last week's winner at Pocono, Tom Sinchek. Jesse Thordick's going to be in 23rd, with that of Ryan Bird, Max Foner, and James Tremmel finishing out our 26 drivers starting out here tonight. Big thanks to all of our amazing sponsors. That at the Simbox store. If you're trying to get yourself a button box for an affordable price, go look up the Simbox store on eBay as well on Facebook, as well as the Simbox store. Those sim boxes, they are also going to be implemented with iFlag, able to be seen the sim software to be enabling you to see which flags are out. Are we green, yellow, white, or checkered flags being thrown out? And is able to work with any type of simulators you need. Great way to enhance your gaming. Go get yourself a Simbox from the Simbox store. As well as Track Racer Refined Gaming. Track Racer, if you're starting up to get into a racing rig or finishing a racing rig, Track Racer's got you covered. Get yourself a discount code. Go to Facebook, look up NAISCC as on their Facebook page. They can send you a discount code for Track Racer Refined Gaming, as well as a big thanks we already noted on Simbox Store, but Simbox Store, you really push our buttons. We'll touch more on the other amazing sponsors for here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. But Brandon, pace truck is off, and it's time for us to go green here at the Monster Mile at Dover. It's the Simbox Store 180 here at Dover. Brian Johnson, Vincent Sora, the green flag is out, and it's time to get racing at Dover, heading into turn number 1.
Yeah, good pole position for Brian Johnson. Again, it looked like he was going to dominate last week's race at Pocono. It didn't go his way towards the end, but certainly coming in here tonight at Dover as the pole sitter. And as you can see, Sam already out to the early lead.
We're already seeing most of the field getting single filed. It's not until you go back around 10th place the drivers will finally get side by side. That's going to be Ethan Smith and James Loveland. But up front, it's Brian Johnson, Vincent Sora, trying to get aggressive early and trying to pull away as fast as possible. But that's what we're going to be seeing a lot of here tonight, is who wants to go out there, push as hard as they can in the first 10 to 15 laps, and who's going to be passive, help themselves on the longer run. And so right now, that of Vincent Sora under a little bit of pressure from the one of Kyle Rochelle, battling for second place heading into turn number 1.
Yeah, and Sora and Rochelle both having good showings last week too, so you can really start seeing now, Sam. We've talked about 5 different winners coming in, but here in week 6, you kind of start getting a feel of who's going to be there come playoff time, and that's going to be Brian Johnson, Vincent Sora, Kyle Rochelle. Just had a phenomenal race last week. Nick Crawford, Zach Hall seems to always be in the picture here too. So we're starting to see a lot of similar names up here in the front, and really just carrying momentum week to week.
Yeah, our whole entire front 6, you could say, are regulars that are up front. Brian Johnson, Vincent Sora, Kyle Rochelle, Nick Crawford, Zach Hall, Danny Cochran. Those top 6 running well. Zach Hall ducking it low on Nick Crawford, making the pass for 4th place. As well as you're seeing the 11, Nick Crawford stuck on the high line, going to be losing ground. Danny Cochran's got to be careful, but it's the driver that's making the pass currently on the 11, the 08. Brandon Jenks, the driver that we haven't really seen up front that often this season, moving up to 6th after the pass on the 11 machine.
Yeah, in fact, I think he's got that R next to him, so everybody watching at home, that means he's a rookie here this season with NAISCC, at least for the Cup Series. Sam, I'm not sure. Maybe that's a transfer from the truck division with these guys, but nonetheless, it's good to see one of the rookies in the Cup Series, Brandon Jenks, making his way up into the top 10 the last couple of races here, and really showing the veterans here at NAISCC that he can compete.
Oh, absolutely. Some of the other rookies that are running up front, Brandon Jenks, who's got the R on our ticker, as well as Ethan Smith comes in as a rookie, and that of Thomas Green, who's back in 10th position. Those three drivers, three rookies in the top 10 and trying to show off and say, hey, we're here to compete. As Thomas Green, our Atlanta winner, coming in with a lot of pressure on his hands because for the 31, yes, he got his win back at Atlanta for race number 2 of the season, but Brandon, for the 31, for that win to count to push him into the playoffs, has to be in the top 30, the top 20, of points. Currently comes in tonight, 21st in points, so he needs a lot of work if he wants to be moving forward. And moving forward, we're going to go up front, look at the battle for 5th, as it is still, yes, they're single file, but there has been a lot of jostling on where drivers want to put themselves.
Yeah, going back to that driver and what you said, it's not a 100% win and you're in. These drivers know they have to be top 20 in the points, and it's still early enough. He's sitting there in 21st. However, he is going to, look, the hard part's done, right, Sam? He's got the win. Now he can just race for points each and every week. It doesn't matter if he finishes 20th in points or 10th in points. He's got the win. He just needs to make sure he's taking care of his race car each and every week, getting good track positions, working on qualifying, making sure he's up into the front. And really that needs to be his focus, because you're right. Sitting outside that 20th bubble, if you will, back in 21st, you have a bad week here, a bad week there. Next thing you know, you're sitting 24th, 25th in points, and that win means nothing.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big goal of the rest of the season. Again, this is tonight, race number 6 of 13 of the regular season. We're getting close to halfway, and once we get past the halfway next week at Watkins Glen, all the pressure is on for the drivers that are outside of the top 20 and those that are outside of the top 16 points-wise, because drivers, if you're in, only 16 drivers get to make it to the playoffs, so eyes are always going to be on the prize, who can make it to the end. But right now, up front by almost a full second, it's Brian Johnson in the 28, who is really not slowing down at all. Looking at the last lap, Brian Johnson running 2/10 faster than the rest of the field.
Yeah, Brian Johnson maybe coming in with a little bit added momentum. We talked about it at the top of the broadcast last week, his showing. Maybe he feels like he got robbed there a little bit, even though obviously it was fair and square. Losing that race. But, talking about Watkins Glen next week, not to get ahead of ourselves too much, Sam, but in most leagues around iRacing, there's only a handful of drivers that really compete at the road courses and really come in with good expectations. We've done a road course with NAISCC earlier in the season at Daytona, and let me tell you something, there are a lot of good road course ringers here in this league. So next week isn't going to be a gimme. All these drivers are sufficient at road course racing, and I think these 2 weeks right here, Dover and Watkins Glen next week, is really going to set the tone for some of these drivers.
Oh, absolutely. And Watkins Glen, a lot more of a traditional road course for a lot of these drivers that they've seen throughout the years. Daytona road course kind of still feels fresh and new for a lot of these guys. Watkins Glen, a lot more of a faster-paced road course where drivers are expecting a lot more to be closer up in speed. We're going to drop back and see some of the drivers that have been losing ground for themselves. We're going to fall back to 23rd. Dylan Walterman, one of our bigger losers, currently down at 6 positions. And back, we're on the drivers that did not put a qualifying time for themselves. Dylan Walterman, as well as Ryan Burr, drivers that are trying to move forward for themselves. Same for that of Ryan Lewis in 21st position, a driver that's starting to fall back. And, Brandon, for these guys that are further back in the field, their race isn't done just yet, but certainly they're wanting to find a little bit more speed. But again, their race isn't over. Stage 1 comes to close back at, it's going to be on lap 80 for these drivers.
Yeah, and that's, the thing with stage racing. Look, we talk about it all the time here on Saturday nights. These guys do have the comfort of that stage coming, but that first stage, it really needs to start setting the tone. I talk about that a lot. These drivers who sometimes hang around in the back saying, well, I have that first stage. I don't need to worry about it. Yeah, you do. You need to build some momentum for yourself. You need to gain some track position. Right now, we see Tom Senchek, the 8 car, back there in 20th. That's our points leader right now. And with Brian Johnson up front, some of these drivers who are in the top 5, top 8 in points, you can't really afford to be banking on those early stage stages in these races, you really have to go all out week to week.
Oh, especially as we saw the 41 just off the corner get loose at a turn forward. That's something we're going to be seeing a lot of these drivers struggling with the longer the run goes on. The tightness is in front of that ascent check and others. It's the 88 of Adam Westfield hard into the inside wall. No yellow is thrown, but heavy damage for the 88 machine, and he's now just going to have to take that to pit road. No fast repair. He's going to have to repair that under time limit in pit road to see how much damage he really occurred there.
Wow, and it was a lot. You can see it starting in the front of the car right there. He's got some damage on the front left. It goes down the side. Even his rear is banged up right now. So you're absolutely right. Adam Westfield going to bring his Toyota Camry down pit road. No fast repairs. And unfortunately, he's the first driver to be unlucky here tonight at the Monster Mile. But, you know, with a track like this, you could get away with a little bit of damage. Obviously, it's going to be all about, you know, making sure your steering is still working and you don't have any front end damage that's going to be able to raise your engine temp. So we'll see how this 88 fares. He may have some required that he's going to want to do, which it looks like he is, as he still is sitting down pit road. But nonetheless, Sam, losing a ton of laps right now.
Oh, absolutely. And now we're going to have to rebound it as we're going to ride on board with the 32 of Zach Hall and get a sense of what it's like to race here at Dover as he comes across the start-finish line into turn one. A lot of the drivers get low, and, you know, we're seeing these drivers, Brandon, in the way that they're racing around here. It's the exit of the corners and that transition from banking. So it's kind of a jump up that you have to go up before you really go straight on these straightaways. That's where the car feels its lightest and also gets super tight on these drivers. It's such a, you know, narrow rope that you're on of feeling too loose or too tight off these corners. And that was a lap with Zach Hall, and we continue to ride with him. I mean, is there anything that you're seeing from this 32 machine that maybe he's losing or gaining time that is hurting or losing for himself?
No, I think Zach Hall's doing just fine here in the 32 car. Brian Johnson, we've seen this from him week to week. He's always up front. He's always building that buffer between himself and the second place car. So right now, the 32 car, he's doing everything right. You're in second place. You're probably not going to be able to catch Johnson unless if he makes a mistake. So right now, you just need to focus in on driving your drive. Make sure you're not overdriving the 32 car, because you're right. You come out of corner exit, and there is a lot of momentum, and that rear end gets really loose coming out of corner exit. So just need to be able to take care of yourself before you start worrying about Brian Johnson up in front.
As we're watching the battle for third place, this being Vincent Sora and Kyle Rochelle, drivers that have been fighting against one another since season one of the NAISCC Cup Series. And it's been cool to see the different drivers that come in. I mean, for Brian Johnson, Zach Hall, and also for Nick Crawford, they all came in last season and kind of dominated in a way, where Vincent Sora and Kyle Rochelle, they used to be the top dogs each and every week to watch out for. And now seeing the more and more competition that gets added in. I mean, you got Brandon Jenks, who's in seventh, who's starting to make a better run for himself. Danny Cochran in sixth place. He's been getting a lot more consistent throughout these last couple of seasons. It's been awesome to see the growth of these drivers each race and also each season that rolls by.
I think another thing to point out, Sam, too, is in a lot of tracks, I always revert back to Chicagoland or Atlanta when the tires start to wear down. It's a wide enough, big enough track that you can really start working the higher line. We're not going to be able to see that here at Dover. These drivers aren't really going to be able to crutch that high line as their tires start to wear, simply because this track isn't very wide. Sure, we might see one or two guys up there, but you're going to lose so much time. So the point being, when your tires start to wear, you're still pretty much running that bottom line, and it's going to take a lot of skill on these long green flag runs for drivers to really be able to keep it going the way that they are right now.
Oh, absolutely. As been watching drivers in the way that they've been tackling this course, we're riding on board and watching the 56 of James Loveland. And James Loveland, one of those drivers, I always say, if we go to a track where it's heavily important on tire wear, how do you save tires? Usually Loveland's the driver that pops up, but that's usually when we're at that of asphalt racing. We're driving on concrete. You know, this surface rides so differently than asphalt, and we're seeing, you know, some drivers that used to feel a lot more comfortable starting to fade back. And another thing I was talking to the drivers about was the weather. How do you think the weather was going to be influencing this race? And during practice, the weather and the track temp a lot warmer for the actual race. It is actually cooled off. It's been 65, you know, that Fahrenheit for the outside temp, the ambient temperature. But you see on the right side, the track temp, 87 degrees. And usually on asphalt, that is the perfect weather for tires to get the maximum amount of grip. But Brandon, cooler temps on concrete can actually sometimes be the worst for these drivers.
Yeah, and for people at home that may not be familiar with Dover as much, just think if Bristol had a really big brother, that is Dover. It's got the high banking. It's not a huge track, but most certainly bigger than Bristol. But the biggest two commons there are they both run on concrete. So it's a bigger Bristol. These guys, they know what they're doing here, right? They put in practice here all week. But like you said, as the track's temp change, so is the way these guys are going to drive.
And we're seeing the 9, David Medina, who has popped into the booth a couple of times this season. Thanks again for David for coming in last week, and doing a great job in the booth. But back out on track, top 15 currently for this 9 machine. But he's finding some drivers that did not qualify and have a lot of speed. Already been passed by Cedric Hunter, Tom Sinchek, and the 44, Maurice Gilmillion, coming with a hard charge as we ride on board with 17th place runner. That is Thomas Walter, and Walter also coming in with a lot of confidence for himself, but slowly making the march forward is a lot of these guys that started further back in the field.
Yeah, Thomas Walter in the 57, up 3 spots right now, up to 17th. But if you look at the drivers behind him, Ryan Bird and Max Foner, both those guys have accumulated 6 spots here in the early going. So David Medina falling back 3 spots in the early going, but he's got some drivers behind him that are really, really gaining some momentum here. So he's just going to have to sit tight and just race his race. Maurice Gamillion in front of him and Tom Senchek. It's not bad company to be in, but before this first stage break, he's going to have to try and focus in and go forward and not continue to drop backwards.
Max Foner currently back in 19th with that of Martin Morales back here, just kind of in cruise control. Max Foner tied with that of Ryan Bird with the second most positions gained with 7 and 6 for themselves, and both now up 7 after making the pass as we move up to Sean Hutztatler. Sean Hutztatler kind of with that of Ethan Smith. Our top 12 all still in line, keep themselves pretty close with one another, but they've got to be careful because Cedric Hunter, Tom Sinchek, our biggest movers of the night, both up 8 positions from where they qualified. They'll be closing up to this group of drivers, and I gotta say, when it comes to the end of tonight's race, after I think that we get to the stage caution, the 13 and the 8, they're gonna be very fast drivers, and I'm interested to see how well they can carve their way through and possibly get the top 5 here tonight.
Yeah, really good showing right now for Cedric Hunter and Tom Senchek. Remember the last time we checked in with this 8 car, he was all the way back in 20th. And maybe a little bit worried. We talked about winning last week, coming into this week with a ton of momentum, coming in as the points leader, but starting 20th on a track like this. He was going to have to make up a lot of ground, but right now, glued to that pink Hello Kitty car of Cedric Hunter as both these guys, like you said, up 8 spots, ride that 13th and 14th.
Yeah, they've been just working with one another, carving their way through. It has been a work with one another type of a game plan, it's looked like. And for that of Tom Sinchek and Cedric Hunter, there's been talks of some alliances possibly being made. And there's been talks, hey, let's work with one another to get our ways in certain tracks, might be able to help one another out. Here at Dover, I think it's more of, for Tom Sinchek, hey, I'll just watch the 13. Wherever he goes, I'll go. And whatever drivers have to go high, I'll make that pass. As we also saw the 88 being passed by the 13 and the 8, Adam Westfield, back out on track, but he was in pit road for just a little bit under 8 minutes, for 7 minutes and 54 seconds in pit road in total. And because of all that time, the 88 currently 20 laps down, showing just how quick you can have an issue happen and kind of feel like you're in no man's land, banking on someone else to have troubles here tonight.
Yeah, and he's going to have to be careful out there, the 88 car. We'll see if he's able to keep up pace, which right now I think it looks like he is. But Sam, we talked about it. This isn't a very wide track. It's a very fast track through the turns. So being 20 laps down, he's going to have to make sure that he is on point when these leaders are coming through or somebody's trying to make the pass on him, that he is not causing any difficulties out there for him. But right now, so far, so good. He took the time to get his car done. But like you said, unfortunately, 20 laps down. And I think it's safe to say that's going to be a pretty big mountain to climb.
Oh, absolutely. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. Saturday Night Racing for the NAISCC Track Racer Cup Series. It has been a blast to watch all these drivers throughout this season. This is race number 6 at Dover for the Sim Box Store 180. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Brandon Robinson and Robert Moyer, running all the cameras and graphics for us here tonight. As we've already given big thanks to that Sim Box Store Track Racer, but now big thanks to that ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. If you'd like to get yourself a game or two, instead of hearing sounds, feel them instead. Use the promo code FreakyFast20. That's Freaky with 2 E's. FreakyFast20 for 20% off. Getting yourself a game or two from ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing, as well as McCuding Setup Shop. Use the promo code FFB10 to get some of the best setups on iRacing and get 10% off with that promo code of FFB10. McCuding Setup Shop. There are setups, but they're your victories. And gotta say, for tonight's race, it has been a blast to watch all these drivers. As we're coming up to lap 50, our stage 1 will come to a close at lap 80. So we're getting closer and closer, Brandon, to the end of stage 1. And right now, top 5 drivers running. It's Brian Johnson, Zach Hall, Kyle Rochelle, Nick Crawford, and Vincent Sora, all in line to get themselves bonus points at the end of stage 1.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you right now, when I took a look at the point standing, Sam, the drivers that were up front, not only did they have bonus points, but I mean, they were in the 20s as far as bonus points go. I believe Tom Senchek had 22 bonus points, Brian Johnson having 20 bonus points. So the top 5 at the end of stage 1 all gets those bonus points, and it has really been an advantage for these drivers that are on top of the leaderboard, because without those bonus points, who knows where they would fall on the standings. So they accumulate over time. Brian Johnson, Zach Hall, Rochelle, Crawford, and Sora all looking for those extra points as they see Tom Senchek on top of the leader board in the point standings, but also seeing he's got more bonus points than them as well. So everybody knows just how important these bonus points has really played out as the season's progressed.
Yeah, as we're watching on board some of the closest racing action for the battle for 8th place. Thomas Green, James Loveland, Sean Hutt-Stutler all trying to battle for the 8th place position. But yeah, the stage points, they're so important, and also just bonus points in general, because, you know, you noted on those drivers that are in the top 5, top 10 in points. But Zach Hall comes in with 13 bonus points, and he missed last week. Still 13th in points, even with missing a race, showing how consistent the 32 team has been after he got his win. Beginning of the season, complete just wasn't sure if Zach Hall was ever going to recover for himself, but ever since he got his win back at Auto Club, it has been all about consistency. That's why he's up in 13th place, even with missing last week's race at Pocono.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, Kyle Rochelle had a heck of a run last week at Pocono, the Tricky Triangle, and right now tackling the Monster Mile. He's up there in 3rd, back behind Zach. Zach's been up there pretty much all by himself. He wasn't going to catch Brian Johnson. It doesn't look like he's going to. It's 3.3 seconds, the gap. But he was enjoying a nice little cushion himself. As soon as Kyle Rochelle was able to fight off Nick Crawford, he's been able to make up some time, and here he is now on the back bumper of Zach Hall looking for 2nd.
Yeah, and looking at that last lap, we'll see this go around and what the laps are looking like. But with this battling that's starting to ensue from Zach Hall and Kyle Rochelle, Nick Crawford, he's slowly starting to chip away. This could turn into a 2-car battle for 2nd to a 3-car battle for that 2nd place position, as coming out of pit road was that of Ryan Lewis, who just came in. And here comes Kyle Rochelle to the inside of the 32, easily making the pass. And now going to be trying to move forward as you take a look at how the times have been different between second and third place runners, and you could just see the gaps that were being gained. They were small, minimal at times, but it was really that last lap when he finally got to the quarter panel of Zach Hall, Kyle Rochelle was able to capitalize and make the pass cleanly.
Yeah, good job by that one car. And as you look at the lap count right now, 57 laps. All these, we've been green this whole way. I'm kind of surprised, to be honest with you. As good as these drivers are and as highly as we talk about them, 58 green lap flags on a 26 car grid. Pretty impressive here. It looks like everybody here tonight did their homework on the track, ran their practice laps, and we haven't had anybody come down pit road yet, unless it was for damage-wise, of course, but the leaders deciding to stay out all season long, Sam. We've seen drivers come in and do that early stage, or that early pit before stage one, but it looks like nobody opting to do that here, as we are about to be 60 laps green to open this race.
Yeah, we're seeing Nick Crawford making the pass on Zach Hall, going to be moving up to third place, and watch out for Zach Hall because he's going to be having Vincent Sora as well as Ryan Lewis. You know, we were wondering who was going to make a pit stop here during stage one. Looks like Ryan Lewis going to be the only driver that has done so, as Sora right on the back quarter panel of the 32, and here it comes to the inside into turn number 3, and that's exactly where you want to set up the driver. He's on the straightaway into the corner, so you don't get any type of shuffling. Zach going to be dropping down, but the 41 going to be one of the biggest risks, because for that of Ryan Lewis, he's trying to make sure he can try to unlap himself because of his green flag pit stop. The 41 did use the set of tires, and now going to be 3 laps down, showing how crazy it is. One pit stop, you can go from the lead lap to 3 laps down in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, and Zach Hall's in danger right now. Okay, he's coming down pit road. I was going to say he's in danger of losing those bonus points that we just talked about, but it's almost like as soon as I brought it up, maybe these drivers are listening to the broadcast, who knows, but they were like, oh yeah, you know what? Maybe I should come down pit road, but I think that was needed for Zach Hall. He was really starting to fall off a little bit. It started with Kyle Rochelle being able to eat up at that gap that he had and being able to make the pass. And as soon as Kyle Rochelle did, there came Nick Crawford, Vincent Sora, and it had looked like Danny Cochran was well on his way of making a clean pass as well. So I think Zach Hall got the cue, said, hey, you know what? I'm losing speed. I'm losing positions. Let me come down pit road and grab myself a fresh set of tires.
Yeah, but this is so risky coming into pit road, one of the most dangerous pit roads in the whole entire NASCAR circuit. I think of maybe Darlington being just as terrifying for a lot of these drivers because of how difficult and kind of a blind entry it is, and how easy drivers can come in with too much speed and go into the water barrels. Aaron Kralick's going to be the next driver into pit road for himself. Talk to the drivers. The window we were given was anywhere from 65 to about 80 laps these drivers could go on fuel. But the issue was not really fuel, it was more so of the tires on why drivers were going to come into pit road. Currently, the leader, that of Brian Johnson, running about a second and a half, of 1.6 seconds slower than his best lap time. So if we see any of our front runners coming to pit road before stage one is over, we could be seeing Zach Hall potentially, with being out for so long, he could become our leader once the whole entire pit cycle goes through. But that's if these drivers come to pit road before stage one is over.
Yeah, that was a 24.5 as Brian's last lap, compared to his best of 22.83. And all the other drivers out there pretty much around the same, running outside of that 24 threshold there. So I think you're right. Pit window opened at 65. We saw a total of 2 drivers go a little bit earlier than that, including Zach Hall. But yeah, now's going to be the time, unless, I mean, there's 13 laps until the stage break. So some of these drivers, as long as they're comfortable out there, they're not having to fight the steering too much. Who knows? Maybe they can go another 12 laps and just come down once the stage break hits.
Yeah, the drivers had themselves a practice race before, I believe, back on Wednesday. Giving these drivers, I take it back, it was on Thursday, where they had a practice race where they ran 80 laps. There were a handful of drivers that were able to stretch it out that far, but they were at risk of blowing up on their tires. So we've seen a couple of drivers already coming to pit road now. But the question is, when do you come into pit road? And if you come into pit road for Zach Hall, his mission was to be the first car lapped down. Biggest issue is that there are 2 drivers that are ahead of him that just got lapped by Brian Johnson. So Zach Hall in trouble of possibly becoming a lap down. I mean, staying a lap down even after stage 1.
Yeah, but I'll tell you right now, he's doing everything in his power to make sure that doesn't happen. I've been watching a little bit of this 32 car since he came off pit road, and I mean, he has been cutting it close with these cars. Obviously, being on the fresh tires, he's going to be faster, and he's really out there going for broke because of what you said. He needs to be that first car a lap down and try to get as many clean positions as he can the hard way. And right now, that 32 car, I mean, really just racing the tires off that car.
Oh, absolutely. And the big thing is that the drivers that are being put a lap down are about a half a lap ahead of where Zach Hall is. And Brian Johnson just continues to clock drivers a lap down, just putting down that of Dave Medina a lap down in 20th position. Dylan Walterman as well as Thomas Walter just in front of the 28. So the pressure is on for those drivers that came in to take an extra set of tires 15, 20 laps sooner than really what was needed. They are now in trouble of possibly being a lap down and trying to have to do a wave around when drivers come to pit road, which is going to keep them off sequence. And when you're off sequence, you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on making sure your strategy works out and this race stays green to the end of the race.
We were a little worried about Brian Johnson up front, and it looked like he was losing some pace there for a second, wondering if he was getting ready to come down pit road. But since we've gone away from him and have been showing you guys the rest of the field, he's actually gained time here, Sam. Last time we checked in, he was at about a 3.3 gap over Kyle Rochelle. It is now well over that 4-second mark as Nick Crawford and Kyle Rochelle have been battling here a little bit for second, with eventually the 11 car of Nick Crawford being able to make the pass on Kyle Rochelle. So Brian Johnson giving up a little bit of time each and every lap towards his personal best, but still gaining time on the drivers behind him.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, for that of Nick Crawford and for Kyle Rochelle, they're also trying to figure out how to get by lap cars that are in the way in moments. So they're catching lap traffic at poor moments. As you saw there, Martin Morales trying to get out of the way if possible, but our drivers that are on the lead lap catching up to the 24 on the exit of the corner. Kind of one of the worst places to catch a lap car because you have to get off the brake because the closing rate's so different between a driver that's off pace and a driver that's trying to catch up to the leader.
Yeah, it really is. And like we touched base earlier, there's not a whole lot of room on this track, and it really closes in when you're coming off corner exit. It's going to be one of the most important parts of the track as we start slipping away here a little bit. And, you know, we have even the first, second, third place guy now making their way through lap traffic. It's going to be real difficult for these drivers. And as you're out there battling for position on the lead lap, it's hard to give that back marker the room that he should have. And that's where, if we do have any mistakes, that's where it's going to come.
Well, update for Zach Hall. Multiple drivers have come into pit road. Thomas Walter, Brandon Jenks, all have come into pit road to get service done. So the 32, has now been able to move up to 19th position. The third car, though, one lap down. So still not in that lucky dog position. But based on the way that we've been seeing these drivers running here tonight, we're expecting everyone that's on the lead lap or has not pitted to at least come in. So the 32 isn't completely out of this race. He can still take the wave around as we're inching closer and closer. We're on lap 79, coming to 30, which would be, coming up to 80, which would be the white flag of stage one, as Brian Johnson, just crushing it here tonight. Almost over 4.5 seconds over second place Nick Crawford. Brian Johnson takes lap 80. We are on the white flag of stage one. Your top five being Brian Johnson, Nick Crawford, Kyle Rochelle, Vincent Sora, Danny Cochran, and all five drivers split away from one another, and also anyone close to fifth place. It's the 28 rounds, turns 3 and 4. Stage one coming to a close here at Dover. Congratulations to that of Brian Johnson for winning stage one here at Dover for the Simbox Store 180. And gotta say, it's been a crazy race so far here, Brandon, as we wait for the yellow to fly. And there it is. conclusion of stage 1 and our first yellow of the evening.
Yeah, some notables as we start taking a look at that tower on the left-hand side there. Tom Senchek up 14 spots. He's now inside the top 10. There in 8th, Cedric Hunter, 10 spots right outside the top 10 in 11th. So Tom Senchek, little bit of a scary start for him, but all he did was work his way up through the field over the course of these last 80 laps. And as we come down pit road to do these pit stops under yellow, really putting himself in a good spot. But man, it's going to be tough tracking down this 28 car of Brian Johnson.
Now, Brian Johnson dominated this race last season and came in kind of, everyone was saying if anyone's going to become the first multiple time winner this season, most likely was going to be Brian Johnson with how quick he looked last season. But there were some, notable drivers that were thrown out of, hey, possibly we could see Cedric Hunter or even that of Tom Senchek show up and show some speed, which both drivers have done a great job, the 8 and the 13, to climb their way forward after starting all the way in the back of the field practically. But now we get a sense, how are these drivers going to take their pit stops? Who can get their team to have the best stop and get out up front? Currently, Brian Johnson's leading as they come in, but who can possibly beat out our pole sitter, Brian Johnson, as he pulls into pit road? Not seeing too many drivers slipping and sliding in. It's going to be Nick Crawford, the driver to watch out. How well can the 11 get out of his box? And can he beat out Brian Johnson? You're seeing the left sides going up for these drivers. The 11's already gone, but because of that first pit box, the 28 leads and comes out of pit road first.
Yeah, the 11 car, Nick Crawford, almost got it. But as you said, Brian Johnson came in as our pole sitter here tonight. He's got that first pit box, oh so crucial when it comes to this point of the race on where your pit box is.
Oh, absolutely. As looking through the field and where drivers are, it's going to be that of Brian Johnson up front, Nick Crawford, Dylan Walterman. It looks like the 99 was able to get the wave around, but gonna have to come back into pit road. And there goes the 99 as it's going to be the 11 of Crawford, the 1 of Kyle Rochelle, Vincent Sora, Thomas Green, going to be our top 5. Coming to the restart here as you see a line of drivers trying to get themselves a wave around. And an update for drivers that were a lap down, David Medina, Zach Hall, as well as Alex Light, all coming into pit road. They're going to be staying a lap down or more as they're going to be deciding to go with tires and fuel instead of a wave around for themselves.
Yeah, tough break for those guys. The second stage, plenty of laps, though. We're going to have about 90 to 95 laps once these guys get settled in and we get back to green flag racing. And 80 laps is a pretty long green flag stint. But, Sam, as we go into this second stage, it only gets longer. There's going to be some mistakes made. I would assume maybe we'll get a caution, maybe not. It looks like with them implementing the no fast repairs, everything that they wanted out of that has happened. I'm so impressed with 80 green flag laps here at Dover.
Yeah, 80 green flag laps. We only had one incident that put a driver in a pit road to have extended time to get damage to repair, that being Adam Westfield, who almost brought out our yellow when we were halfway through that first stage 1. But since then, everyone's been racing clean. And, because of the no fast repair, that's going to be a complete change of mindset, I think, for a lot of these drivers, knowing that safety net's no longer there. You can't be making a lot of these risky moves that you once were able to do before. So you got to be a lot more gentle, make sure you don't throw your car away. And I think that's also another reason why we were able to have such a long green flag run. But, Brandon, we got to see what a nice, clean beginning of this race, patience being seen. But now we're coming to this point of this race where we're going to expect to see one pit stop if this race stays green. How much patience is there really going to be from here on out for these drivers to make sure they can make it to the end of the race, and who wants the win?
Yeah, and that's really going to separate the guys that do well here tonight and the guys that don't. I know that sounds kind of obvious, but it is what it is. These guys on these long green flag runs, it's really going to come down to patience and taking care of your equipment, taking care of your tires, hitting your pit stall, not speeding down pit road. As you've said, one of the toughest pit roads in the industry. So all that's going to come into play once we start hitting a full green flag pit stop rotation.
Pace car is off. If you're looking to get yourself any medical scrubs, embroideries, or even any other assets, go to Uniformities in the Jacksonville, Florida area if you want to get yourself some nice scrubs. But for us here tonight, we're ready for some Simbox Store 180 racing action as the green flag waves. Brian Johnson, Nick Crawford, as well as Kyle Rochelle going to be getting going quick, but it's going to be the 15, Vincent Sora, who almost drops right into 31's lap. And luckily, no caution for the drivers, but that was a very close call for the drivers up to the top 5.
Yeah, pretty good start by Brian Johnson, and even better start by Nick Crawford as he was able to edge out Kyle Rochelle. Kyle being on that outside line, kind of having to wait for the 11 to clear before he could get down on that bottom line, doing so in front of the 15 of Vincent Sora. Danny Cochran, who we saw have a really good run towards the end of that first stage break, being able to make the pass onto Zach Hall for that 5th. So really good for the top 5 right now. And even the 31 of Thomas Green back there in 6th, a really, really good start.
Teammates giving a little bit of a shuffle. That of Danny Cochran, Vincent Sora giving the pass. The 2 wants to get going while the 15 says, hey, I'll be patient here. But just behind them, now inside of the top 10, it's Tom Senchek and as well Cedric Hunter, 7th and 8th position. They're starting to make the moves forward. And Brandon, this is when we start to see what does the Hello Kitty machine in the 8 have for the drivers that are up in the top 5.
Yeah, and these guys been working together all night long. They're both up 14 spots apiece. So that 8 car of Tom Senchek has been following the 13 of Cedric Hunter, and it's been nothing but successful right now. They're both inside the top 10 for the first time, 7th and 8th. You got Sean Huffstutler back there behind him, and another notable driver, Max Foner, in the 51 car, up 15 spots, cracking the top 10.
Yeah, another big mover going to be that James Tremmel back in 12th, and as well Ryan Bird back in 13th for Tremmel, up 14 positions, 11 for Ryan Bird. So we're starting to see a lot more of those drivers that are running well, being a lot more consistent, rising to the top. But we do want to give note, Ethan Smith, disconnection, internet issues for the 00. He is not in the session. We'll see if he wants to come back, but it looks like the 00's night comes to a close, our first DNF of the evening.
Yeah, and that's tough. Going back to last week at Pocono, we called out Ethan Smith a ton on the broadcast. That 00 car was up there in the top 5, top 6 all night long, and not just floating around either. I mean, he was really battling those cars, and at one point, it looked like the 00 car could have been a winner last week. Of course, he didn't. That went to Tom Senchek, but a heartbreak for the 00 as he had such a good run last week. And it looked like he was doing decent here tonight. So that's a pretty big loss if you're the 00.
Oh, absolutely. As we see some of the other drivers, this being Jesse Thordick in the 14. Driver started further back in the field, up 8 positions from where he started. But the 14 machine currently that marker for the top 15. And one of the last drivers that's on the lead lap, Aaron Kralik, as well as Dylan Walterman, going to be those final 2 drivers on the lead lap. But some close racing up front for the lead. Brian Johnson, Nick Crawford, Kyle Rochelle, all keeping it close, almost a half a second between our top 3. And this has been the closest action that of Brian Johnson has had almost all night. But Nick Crawford seems to be just overdriving here too early for the 11. This could be hurting him for the long run, but for the short run, he is right there on the back bumper.
Yeah, he really is. He's giving it a shot, and I think when you see the dominance that Brian Johnson had in that first stage, and when you carry for a lack of better terms, the clout that Brian Johnson does in this league, I think when you're Nick Crawford in the 11, that restart, opening up stage 2, he knows if I have any shot of making a pass on Brian Johnson, I'm 110% go from that green flag. And I thought he was going to get a good run last lap. Brian Johnson not only being able to fend him off, but now creating a little bit of that gap between himself and the 11 car. I'm going to tell you, Nick Crawford, you're going to have to be very careful. You're playing a dangerous game right now because you're burning up your tires. Kyle Rochelle back there, you might think look good with a 0.4 second lead over Kyle, but he's kind of back there just hanging out, letting Nick Crawford overdrive, allowing Nick Crawford to use those tires up. And when it's all said and done, I think the 1 car is going to have a big advantage over Nick Crawford.
Yeah, I mean, we're really getting to see that type of, difference on how these drivers want to attack on the entry of turns 1 and 2. I think everyone's doing a very similar thing, stay low. It's going into turns 3 where Nick Crawford's been really sending it onto the high line, trying to get a higher apex and then drop it low to get a much quicker straightaway speed. But because of how much time he's scrubbing from having that higher entry into turn 3, he's just losing too much ground, isn't making it up on the straightaways, and it's just losing and giving time to the one of Kyle Rochelle. But man, it's crazy looking at our front three. They are right now pulling away and over 3 seconds ahead of fourth. It's looking like if you lose any ground to Brian Johnson from this point on, it's the 28th race from here on out.
Well, and look, it's been his since the green flag drop. We're 100 laps in here. We've just hit triple digits, and Brian Johnson has led every single lap here tonight. We see now Nick Crawford drop off pretty hard now, going back over 3/4 of a second right there at 0.8 behind Brian Johnson. So he gave it a valiant effort. You're right. He kept sending it through 3 and 4, going up high, trying to build that momentum up. Still couldn't make the move on Brian Johnson. And now I think the real race is going to come between the 11 car of Nick Crawford and the 1 car of Kyle Rochelle for second.
And how much is that powered battling going to give, a chance for Danny Cocker and Vincent Sora to possibly creep back into the action for the battle for second and third? I think it's going to be one of the bigger battles to watch out for as fall back to the battle for sixth. Cedric Hunter has caught up to the 31 of Thomas Green, and you can see here riding on board with the 13 machine. Got to pick and choose where you really want to make this battle and where you want to make the pass. And currently right now, it seems like Patience is still waiting for the 13 on how he wants to attack. As you saw the 41 pull into pit road, that's Ryan Lewis, who comes in once again, issues for the 41 machine.
Yeah, Cedric Hunter, Tom Senchek picking up right where they left off, working together as a unit to get up there, about 1/4 of a second behind Thomas Green. And it was at 1.5 seconds behind Vincent Sora. That has now moved up to about 0.8, 0.9. But Cedric Hunter, Tom Senchek still putting up the fight. And they got the 94 car of Sean there behind them as well. So those 3 cars working together, trying to catch, at least at this point, a top 5.
Yeah, really, almost our top 10 have been staying pretty stable on where they started on this last restart. I think everyone that started back, didn't have the qualifying run they wanted, have been able to move forward and kind of move to where they want to be. I think right now, still, you see the 13 go high, giving up all this time, and just issues for himself, and now going to be dropping all the way back to that of 11th place is for Cedric Hunter.
Yeah, he really needs to tuck in behind the 44 of Maurice Gamillion, which he does. He's going to have to reset, but that's got to be so frustrating. He started 21st and was running as high as 7th right there behind Thomas Green as we've been tracking his climb up to the front periodically here, and losing 4 spots now outside the top 10. He's got Ryan Bird in the 49, who's also on a hot streak here. He started 24th. He's now in 12th as well. So you see coming off corner exit there, the 49 getting a huge run on the 13.
Yeah, and here comes Ryan Bird to the inside. I went back to try to see what happened to Cedric Hunter. It just looked like came into the corner just way too hot into turn number 1. Costin lost all that time, had to let off, and now the momentum has not been brought back up and falling to the clutches even to the driver 1 lap down, Zach Hall, who's been slowly marching his way forward, trying to unlap himself the hard way. Went back, thought maybe there was contact between the 13 and the 8. About 3 or 4 laps ago when we first saw Cedric falling backwards. No contact, just a very odd situation for the 13 to lose ground for himself.
Yeah, it really is. And as you're speaking, I was trying to go back too to see what happened. I thought maybe he was pushed it in a little too hard on the back bumper of Thomas Green. Maybe he had to hit his brakes a little bit more than he wanted to, but that wasn't the case. And as you just stated, I don't believe there was any contact between him and the 8 car. So a very strange action there between Cedric Hunter, excuse me. and he's continuing to fall. He's back in 14th now, so he's really going to have to regroup here and just get his mentals back, because obviously we've seen he's got the speed, he's got the car to be able to make a huge splash in the relative. He's just going to have to be able to reset and try to imitate what he's been doing for 110 laps.
Yeah, and big thing for Cedric Hunter. He's still, great in points coming into tonight. He was third in points, so even with an off night, should not be completely out of making it into the playoffs, but certainly a very weird situation that happened for the 13, who was battling for a chance to be up inside the top 6, almost top 5, and now is falling along back to 14. He's going to have to work his way all the way forward, but driver that loved taking that one position up, still our big on lap 112 of 180 coming up to the start of lap 113.
Yeah, he's really got that Max Motorsports Toyota Camry dialed in here tonight, up 16 spots in ninth. Sean Huffstutler now getting a spot behind Tom Senchak. So these three guys right now, eighth, all in the green, including Foner in ninth. So all these guys, making big splashes here in way up front, which we'll see when it's all said and done, who's up there at the front. Right now, Brian Johnson, I say only a second and a half in front of Nick Crawford. That's really been his smallest lead of the night, that 28 car.
Yeah, especially being about 25 laps into a green flag run. When we saw in that first stint at this point, Brian Johnson had already had, a 3-4 second lead already at this point. So kudos to that of Nick Crawford and Kyle Rochelle for at least keeping it as close as it is currently. And kind of, I think, for both those drivers, learning small little details on how they needed to push those to their tires a little bit more aggressive. That first stint, so impactful on how the rest of your race is going to go, on if you need to push a little bit more, maybe ease off how much aggression you're putting into these corners. And hey, they're keeping it still decently close. If another caution comes out, give these drivers another chance to try to rattle the cage of the 28.
Well, not only, banking on caution, but, we saw it at the end of the stage break. Brian Johnson, Nick Crawford, Rochelle, they were all making their way up through lap traffic. So right now, they just need to take care of their own race, make sure they're in position just in case Brian Johnson makes his way through the lap traffic. Who knows? There could be contact. He could have to slow down through his braking zones a little bit more than he'd like to, and really open up that lead. So Nick Crawford, Kyle Rochelle, they're single file right now, running 2 and 3. They just need to take care of themselves, take care of their equipment, and hope that Brian Johnson finds trouble here under green, making his way through lap traffic.
Yeah, and as we're actually going to fall back for the battling that's currently going in the 41 of Ryan Lewis. Both for the 41, he's on pressure tires, going to be trying to pressure on. But hey, when you've got lap cars that are battling with one another, coming up, the drivers are on the lead lap, it gets chaotic on, do I keep fighting the driver that's in?
Unfortunately, with the 32 car of Zach, 1 point in this race, he was that one driver that you pointed out deciding to come down early before the stage break, but through the standing. A little bit of struggle back here, and he's going to have to really make sure that he's not going to lose that lap to Brian Johnson under green.
Yeah, that is going to be the biggest thing. You do not want to lose another lap, nor do you want to see other drivers losing a lap, which that is Ken Kralik. If once he goes a lap down, now, if he wants to get back on the lead lap.
Yeah, and I apologize about that, Sam. As I was talking about that, I didn't realize Zach Hall had already fallen a lap to Brian Johnson. And, if you're Brian Johnson right now, you have a list of drivers that you'd like to cross off his list. So Brian Johnson making his way up through this field, feeling pretty good about the drivers that he's putting behind him.
Oh, absolutely. This is one of those things where Brian Johnson's just been, when he finds a track that he is so comfortable at, it doesn't look like anything rattles him. He just seems so calm and cool. Maybe it's not Brian who makes the mistake. It could be a lap car that makes the mistake. He could take out this 28 machine, and with there being no fast repair, could ruin the day of our leader. And we've seen in plenty of different leagues that we've covered here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting where, a driver that's crossing your fingers and hoping, hey, hope for this pass to be super clean and easy so our leader doesn't lose any more time or gets into any trouble, as they've been dominating almost all race long.
Well, and that's really when the rapport of these drivers who have been racing together for multiple seasons in multiple series really comes into play, and allow these guys to enter voice chat, be able to work with each other out there on the track, not as teammates, but just as drivers. The 28 car of Brian Johnson getting on the radio, letting the 01 car know, hey, go ahead and take this turn. You're fine. Keep doing what you're doing. But once we get on this straightaway, I really need you to slide up and let me through. And that's exactly what the 01 car did. And that's what the 28 of Brian Johnson is going to continue to do as he's making his way through these lap traffic cars.
Making the lap traffic passes clean and easy as we fall back for the battle for 6th place. Thomas Green, Tom Senchak, both battling, and everything's starting to close up with lap traffic also being a mix and a mingle. As Adam Westfield rides high, it's going to be causing Thomas Green to run low, and for that of Thomas Green and others, as the 88 brushing the wall just slightly there. When you're getting these drivers so close and compact with one another, one slip up from a driver that's up ahead or even in the middle of the pack could ruin a lot of drivers' days. So everyone's holding their breath, especially almost every single time we're coming out of these corners, just because it feels like that outside wall is reaching out every time you come by. It's almost like it's a magnet. When you get close to that outside wall coming out of these corners, it just wants to pull you in and ruin your day.
Yeah, the 88 car almost feeling the wrath of what you just described, was able to hold on to it. But that's another thing. Again, it's it's not a very wide track. These guys now, you see the 8 car getting onto the inside of the 31 of Thomas Green. If they're
gotta hope for sure, but for us, we gotta give our big thanks to all of our amazing sponsors. And so for us, we're gonna go non-stop racing action. We're gonna go side by side for a few laps. When we come back, hitting the course here as Drive Broadcasting.
To be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that McConey Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at McConey Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, Built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Makoni Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MakoniSetupShop.com and learn why Makoni Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at Makoni Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Freaky Fast Broadcasting is presented by ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing, as well as Makoni Setup Shop. Makoni Setup Shop, they're our setups, but they're your victories, as well as Euformities. If you're looking to get yourself scrubs from the Jacksonville, Florida area, go look up Euformities. Of tonight's race, it is the NAISCC Track Racer Cup Series here at Dover for the Simbox Store 180. Pit Road is getting hot and busy. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Brandon Robinson, as well as Robert Moyer Jr. running all the production. Drivers, Pit Road, extremely busy currently.
Yeah, it really is. All of the top guys, well, not all of them, but our leader, Brian Johnson, and a few others coming down pit road here. 4 scheduled green flag pit stops, lap 147 out of 180, and there's finally some excitement coming on here in the late race. These guys coming down pit road at different laps, these guys entering the track on different laps. We're really going to have to see how this plays out as now these guys spread out a little bit here.
Yeah, we're starting to really see right now that this is Maurice Gomillion, currently our leader, who is not coming to pit road, but he's trapped in kind of a precarious spot because he's got everyone else that is pitted behind him trying to make these moves as the 44 trying to duck low, might be thinking about defending. Yeah, here he comes into pit road, but is coming a little bit hot into the entry. 44's got to be careful as slows down just enough. Thought he was going to completely miss the box or hit those water barrels. That's going to be the trickiest thing for a lot of these drivers. Still have about 3 drivers that still need to come to pit road. Cedric Hunter, currently our leader, needs to come in. Maurice Gomillion already had. Zach Hall needs to come into pit road. And as well, Brandon Jenks needs to come in. Those are your 3 drivers. Everyone else has come in. Brian Johnson is out there, as well as Kyle Rochelle. Going to be our front 2 once this full-tire pit cycle goes through. But Nick Crawford decided to stay out an extra lap. See if that extra lap can help the 11 potentially gain all this time back and catch up to our front 2. But it looks like it might be a little bit too far for the 11 to do so.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, Johnson obviously scoring third right now, but as you pointed out, as Hunter and Hall comes down for their pit road, Johnson going to take over this race once more. Behind him, Kyle Rochelle, 3 seconds, along with Nick Crawford, just over that 3-second mark behind Brian Johnson. So as long as Brian can navigate, you see it going 3 wide there just for the moment, trying to make his way past Cedric Hunter, he's going to easily be right back into the top spot and have a comfortable lead over Kyle Rochelle.
Yeah, and looking at the drivers currently, for that of Cedric Hunter and Zach Hall, both can stretch out their fuel for at least another 10 laps, maybe even another 12 to 13 laps if they've saved enough fuel. And the big thing with them continuing to stay out is that there's still that opportunity of a caution. But during commercial, Brandon, you and myself, and as well as our producer talking about it, we're not seeing the aggression we were seeing earlier on in those first 5 laps of the season, because we're thinking possibly it's the fast repairs that might be giving these drivers a little bit of hesitancy.
Yeah, I mean, you take the fast repair out, especially on a track like Dover. It's that medium size but high bankings, a lot of speed out here to have. But with that being said, there's no error here. Once you make a mistake, as we saw in the 88 car early on in previous weeks.
Oh, yellow! Oh my goodness, we thought something was going to change, and yellow flag waves. Oh my goodness, and I believe it could be, and it is, James Loveland in the 56 bringing out the caution here tonight, and he just looped it on his own. The big change, we thought if anything was going to happen, it had to happen now. Caution waves fly. Holy cow. Brandon, this changes everything.
Yeah, it is the 56 car of James Loveland right there. And, sometimes I talked about this in a previous race, Sam. When you're out there for so many green flag laps, you are racing the car a little bit differently, right? You're on worn tires. You're not hitting your marks the same way. And sometimes when you come down green flag, you get those fresh tires on there. You have to drive the car differently than what you just have for 40 or 50 laps. And I think that's why we saw just a 1-car incident there. There was no contact. He had just gotten off pit road. He's got fresh tires, and he just sent it a little too hard.
And here's the thing. We're going to be having ourselves 5 cars on the lead lap. And what's even crazier is that it's Cedric Hunter, Zach Hall. They're most likely going to have to come into pit road. Brian Johnson, Nick Crawford, Kyle Rochelle, they could be playing the card of saying no to the rest of the field, but they all come to pit road. For a second there, thought maybe we could see Cedric Hunter and Zach Hall be the only ones coming to pit road, which would be blocking everyone else from coming in and being on the lead lap that are going to be taking a wave around. But we're going from 5 drivers on the lead lap back to 18 on the lead lap with all the wave rounds, but they're going to be older tires by about 10 or more laps as we see our front 5 all come in, top off, get some fuel, get some tires, and get back out there.
Yeah, and the most important part of that is getting tires. I know the leaders were just down pit road, and some guys might sit there and say, well, why are you coming down? You got plenty of tires. Because we have only 25 laps to go. This is it for these drivers, at least for, in Johnson and Crawford and Rochelle's head is, yeah, we just came down 5 or 6 laps ago. We have pretty good tires, but while we take a pause from green flag and we're under caution, let's come down pit road, grab as much rubber as we possibly can, and finish out these 25 laps.
I mean, Brandon, think about it. Zach Hall, he needed a caution to get back into this race. Stage 1 came into pit road, was one of the only drivers that was up in the top 5 to come into pit road, put himself a lap down, and for over, these past 80 laps, was the only driver really a lap down that we knew had speed to compete with that of Brian Johnson. Got the caution he needed, back on the lead lap, and now the question is for Zach Hall, will he be just as competitive? And as well, this is the first time we're going to be seeing a different driver leading on the restart with Cedric Hunter. How fast can Brian Johnson be to pass the 13 on this restart?
Well, and I think another driver to point out, Tom Senchek. We talked about how high he's moved up into the standings here tonight, but Sam, that was all under green flag conditions, and he had gotten to a point, which was 7th, to where he was so far behind the 6th and 5th place car that's where he's been stuck. He couldn't advance past that 7th spot. Even when we did those green flag pit stops, the majority of the time, as long as everybody's hitting their mark, you're still going to end up where you were when you came in. So right now, the 8 car, he's done his business. He's in 7th, but this is the first time he's been able to do this restart up there so high. So we'll see if the 8 car, if Tom Senchek takes advantage. You're absolutely right about Zach Hall in the 32. He's gotten everything that he's needed to put his name back into this race. But right now, Kyle Rochelle, Nick Crawford, Brian Johnson, all been dominating those top 3 spots. The 13 car of Cedric Hunter, remember, he started 21st, worked his way up with Tom Senchek, and ended up losing a ton of positions out there on the track. So he's certainly excited to be leading this race, as he's put in so much work here, so much effort to get to where he is. One mistake, it didn't cost him. He's leading the race.
And we will be extending this caution an extra lap to allow all the drivers that had to take a wave around to catch back up, get in line and position where they're supposed to be. Also, top 5, only drivers that took fresh tires on this pit stop. Everyone else from about 6th, all the way back to 17th did not take fresh tires. Vincent Sora got the lucky dog, so he'll have to go to the end of the longest line. So we'll see how well the 15 can carve his way through this field with his fresher tires that he got for being the lucky dog. But, you know, we're looking at our top 5 right now. A lot of big questions on Cedric Hunter. How well is he going to get on this restart? Will Nick Crawford, who's second in line, be able to hold off the 28 who will be on the outside? A lot of questions on how these drivers are going to react here as we're waiting for the pace car lights to go off. They're going to go off this time by. We're getting ready to go. 22 laps to go. Now it'll be 21 laps to go and we go green. But we've been waiting and wondering, when will the intensity build up? Well, Brandon, we've gotten there. It is complete go time for the end of the race.
Yeah, it really is. And look, man, the 28 car of Brian Johnson, if he was in the inside, I'd say, hey, this is just going to be another normal restart for him. But himself, alongside Kyle Rochelle, on the outside right now, the advantage is Cedric Hunter. The advantage is the 11 of Nick Crawford. How will the 28 car be able to take this high side on the restart?
Our top 5 all have 4 fresh tires, anywhere from 10 to 15 lap fresher tires than most of the drivers behind them. Vincent Sora's got to figure out how to carve his way up front, but you're only going to be seeing about 4 or 5 rows double stacked because the rest of the drivers in line took the wave around. So up front, it's going to be Cedric Hunter, Brian Johnson, Nick Crawford, Kyle Rochelle, Zach Hall, your top 5. Some of these drivers need a caution. They got it. The pace car is off, and it's time to see for 21 laps. Hard racing up front. Who's going to get the win? Race number 6 of the season for the Simbox Store 180. We're green, and it's Cedric Hunter. Great launch. Nick Crawford right at the quarter panel. Brian Johnson not able to come down. He's stuck on the eye side.
Yeah, but I think he's going to clear Nick Crawford here on the straight. That was Nick Crawford was sleeping there. That was going to be his advantage to be able to stick onto the back bumper of Cedric Hunter. He wasn't able to do that, and unfortunately what we saw, Brian Johnson being able to make the clear and to at least take up that second spot and try to track down Cedric Hunter.
Also a big thing to remember, Brian Johnson and Nick Crawford, both from Magnitude 9 esports team, so they're both teammates. It's Cedric Hunter that is part of that Cat 5 former team of Brian Johnson. They're still allies, but you can tell a lot of teamwork was made there from the 28 and the 11. Come across the line, it's going to be 19 laps to go, and it's Cedric Hunter trying to figure out how to hold off the 28. But how well can he do so as our top 4 all within a half a second of one another? Zach Hall nowhere to be found, and I think for Zach Hall, he's recognizing, hey, I'm going to let these guys go final 10 laps. I'm going to finally send what I've got to try to race with these drivers, but I think the 32 also might be hindering with just a slight bit of damage that could be holding him back as our front 3 really, all on top of one another.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the 32 car of Zach Hall struggling there a little bit internally and not too sure what's going on, but not being able to stay with the 1 car of Kyle Rochelle. So right now it's a race for 5th, which would still be a really good points night for the 32 car. He got a little bit loose there. He's going to have to be careful, but also a really good rebound from Zach Hall. So I think he'll be okay all things considered, if he can bring home a top 5 here tonight, Sam?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what a rebound it's been for that of Zach Hall. He was a lap down for most of the second half of this race, and then got the caution he needed. Now going to be moving forward. Update for Vincent Sora. Started all the way back in 18th position, and this car at the end of the line has now cracked the top 10. The 15 coming with a head of steam. Might be a little bit too far to try to make a pass for the lead, but certainly is going to be trying to go for a top 5 here late. As Vincent Sora, you can see, still trapped in the cars that are on older tires, but you can just see 10 to 15 lap difference. Vincent Sora with the fresher tires is just carving his way and making every move look easy as he gets by another driver, moving himself up by lap traffic, still in 10th, but trying to get by that of Sean Hutzstutler in the 94, just ahead to move up to 9.
Yeah, Vincent Sora in the 15 car. Remember, he was in that top 3 for a long time, especially in that first stage that we had here. So Vincent Sora.
Oh, we're going back up to the lead. A little bit of contact, and Cedric Hunter gets bumped once again for Brian Johnson. Just a little bit of shades as they're still bumping and grinding. Zach Hall gets a little bit of contact, as well as Kyle Rochelle. Brian Johnson with the bump to get the 13 out of the way, and now back up front. Former teammates, now allies, who knows after tonight, could be enemies. The 13 is Cedric Hunter from a shot from winning this race, now back to 4th.
Yeah, and carrying some damage there on the rear end, too. That was a little dicey there. The 11 car, I think, might have gotten into the back of the 28 as well. That ultimately kind of pushed him into there. But, yeah, I think... And you see Brian Johnson, I'm looking at the replay, he tried going up high there a little bit to allow Cedric Hunter, I think, to be able to save that car, but unfortunately wasn't able to. Now, while all that happened, Sam, you called it out just a few laps ago, the 32 car of Zach Hall sitting back there in 5th. He went low when that happened, and he's been able to sneak his way up to that 3rd spot behind Nick Crawford.
Yeah, one of the few of the top 5 that got maybe no damage from that incident. It might have equaled out everyone now, but the big question with that of Brian Johnson having fresh air, how much of an advantage is that going to be? Because hearing from drivers during practice, just being the lead driver, having that clean air, it was so impactful to just be able to hold off anyone behind. You saw it had to take Brian Johnson bumping and moving the 13 to make the pass for the lead. Might have to be a similar thing here. Will Zach Hall have to do a similar motion? Or even Nick Crawford, teammates again that are front 2 trying to hold off that of Category 5 racer Zach Hall in the 32 machine, who was coming with a head of steam. A great center of 3 and 4, but it was the exit where he just bobbled, lost time. He's got to reset as we're now got 9 laps to go. I don't know, Brandon, if there's enough time to be seeing Zach Hall catch up and make the pass.
Not with Nick Crawford being there in 2nd. There's single-digit laps to go. Brian Johnson, yeah, he's got some damage, but it's all rear end. It looks like he's got no front end damage, so he's in cruise control right now. If you replace the 11 with the 32 and Zach Hall's trying to only track down Brian Johnson, it might add for some excitement right now. But Johnson in Discord with teammate Nick Crawford saying, hey, you know what? Do not let that 32 car behind you no matter what. Or in front of you, excuse me.
Yeah, that's going to be the biggest goal of just defend, hold off. And all you got to do for that of Nick Crawford is just put your back bumper wherever you see the nose of Zach Hall. That dirty air, it's going to just cause the 32 to tighten up on the corners, have to let off on the gas, and just let Brian Johnson pull away. You know, if anything, this has got to give me a little bit of deja vu from Atlanta, kind of like what we were seeing from that of Thomas Green and Jarrett Talmadge when they were working together to hold off that of Tom Sinchek. Kind of similar here, teammates 1-2 pulling off that of Zach Hall currently, but Zach Hall, great run through turns 1 and 2, and now on the back bumper of the 11, going into turn number 3, 6 laps to go, coming to 5 laps to go here for the Sinbox Store 180. Big question as well moving forward, will there be any lap traffic that could influence these drivers, as in front of Brian Johnson looks to be that of Dylan Walterman, the only driver that is about a half a corner away from influencing these drivers. But the battle for second, Zach's right there, but not able to make the pass. He'll try once again into turn 3.
Yeah, and he's going to have to try and take a page from Brian Johnson's book if he can't get past the 11 cleanly, because right now, with 5 laps to go, you cannot afford a touch right there. but you cannot afford that 11 car to be able to just sit there and throw the block. And we got smoke on the track. Not too sure where that's coming
That's
from.
the 24. That's going to be that Mark Morales. It's going to be smoking low. We say green. Thought for a second. I think with the smoke might have caused that of Nick Crawford to back out of a chance to battle Cedric Hunter. Now Kyle Rochelle going to get in the mix of this, but 3 laps to go. The difference 1.2 seconds and growing between that of Brian Johnson and Zach Hall. But Zach Hall, I don't think there's enough time, but what a move, what a race it's been for himself to rebound, being trapped a lap down, needed a caution, got it, and now running in second for the 32.
Yeah, and a nice bounce back for the 13 of Cedric Hunter now as he's on the back bumper of Nick Crawford. We'll see if he does a little bit of payback. Now, of course, it was Brian Johnson who got into the back of Cedric Hunter, but he knows teammates with 11, they were all pushing there, so we'll see just how clean the 13 tries to work around the 11 car.
Going into turn number 3 and out of turn 4, Brian Johnson dominated all race long, needed to make a bump, and now gonna get your freaky fast one to go here at Dover for the Simbox Store 180. It is all Brian Johnson up front over a second gap over the battle for second. Zach Hall, Nick Crawford, Cedric Hunter, all on top of one another, but through turns 3 and 4, the Dominator gonna become the first driver this season to be a multi-time winner. Back to victory lane. Brian Johnson at Dover wins again for race number 6 of the regular season.
And an awesome drive from the 32 car of Zach Hall, who was once a lap or 2 down in this race, being able to use the cautions to his advantage, be able to climb up through the standings and finish P2. A heck of a run by the 32 car.
You see the 13, Cedric Hunter giving a little bit of taps and also drifting, and might think about getting a little bit of payback as you're going to see these guys, the 28 and the 13, playing a little bit of chicken against one another. As you can tell, Brian Johnson, he wants to burn it down, but because Cedric Hunter was behind him, wouldn't feel too comfortable as the 28 continues to coast. I mean, Brandon, what a race for himself. Brian Johnson, the bump and run, taking out the 13 to get the win here tonight.
Well, and unfortunately, I know the 13 feels like this was his race to win. He's out there doing the donuts. He's out there doing the celebration. But the hard reality is you're 4th. You know, you should be down pit road, allowing Brian Johnson to celebrate. And now, of course, as you said, these guys were once teammates. So I'm not saying there's animosity here. But nonetheless, you can tell Cedric Hunter still being out there on the track, he really felt like they did him dirty up there in that top spot.
Well, here's the ironic thing about it, right? For Brian Johnson, he bumped the 13 of Cedric Hunter. Well, the driver that's on the hood of the 28 machine is that of Cedric Hunter. So Cedric Hunter saw his own face take himself out.
The
Well,
irony.
it is fabulous. But here tonight, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Nick Crawford, Zach Hall, and Brian Johnson going to be up in the booth talking to that of Brandon and myself as we're going to get to our post-race show in just a few moments. Thanks for joining us on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. More action, more talking in just a few. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-race show for the NAISCC Track Racer Cup Series for the Simbox Store 180 at Dover, won by Brian Johnson. But before we get to victory lane, we got to talk to our other two competitors, starting things off with Nick Crawford finishing in third. Nick, it's Sam up in the booth. You got me?
I sure do.
Well, you were up front battling for a chance to win. You saw all the drama that was ensuing. You almost had a chance to do a crossover move on Zach Hall there late. But give us your quick rundown of those final 20 laps. What was going through your mind?
How do I beat Brian? That's really about it. It was kind of just making sure you hit your line. Just how to beat him.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, we kind of up in the booth. It just seemed like you were trying to beat Brian, but at the same time, racing a little bit defensive, trying to hold off Zach. How hard was it trying to hold off the 32 there?
It was tough. The car got really tight. I think I didn't take a full tank on the last stop, so it got really tight early when it's been loose all race. So it was pretty hard to hold him off when you got to defend the bottom.
Absolutely. And also, we saw the contact that Brian had into the 13 of Cedric Hunter. How much did that, debacle kind of influence the end of your race as well?
Yeah, it's gonna be a awkward night tonight in the Discord, but seeing that happen, you're kind of just reacting to it and then trying to miss it, and then you got to collect your thoughts afterwards, and after that it was just trying to figure out how to catch back up and then stay there and then make a pass.
Absolutely. Well, Nick, before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
Hey, just want to thank this league. It's a bunch of cool guys, a lot of good conversations here. Want to thank everybody for racing real clean. Just want to thank you guys for broadcasting. You guys do a great job. And my teammate, he gave me some tips.
Absolutely. That's Nick Crawford in Magnitude 9's number 11 machine. Congratulations on a top 3 finish from Nick Crawford. And now we're going to send things over to second place, where Brandon's got that of Zach Hall.
Hi, Zach. Brandon up here in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got a copy with you guys.
Hey, so you started 5th, you finished 2nd, but that does not tell the whole story here tonight. At one point, you were a lap down, way back in about 20th position there. After the first stage, you work your way back up. A caution may have helped you with some track position there. As those guys were fighting up front, you really took advantage of that. I talked about the move you made to go way low on the backstretch there and being able to take home a P2. It's got to feel really good considering at one point it looked a little scary for you.
Yeah, that was a tough race for me tonight. I'm really lucky to come home with second. Like you said, timely caution to help me out there, get back on the lead lap. But yeah, just went about the first stage wrong. I felt like I was gonna blow a tire. We'd done some practice races before this early in the week, and around lap 70 is when you start to see those Tyler failures, and I just had a bad feeling. I was really dropping pace really quick there around lap 60, and I knew if I didn't hit pit road then, I might not have even a chance to get even close back to the getting near the lead lap, and it just didn't work out there. And man, I think that's one of those moments you never give up for sure, because just that race I definitely wanted to. At some points I was just riding around there a lap down hoping for something, and sometimes it plays out for you. And tonight I got a little lucky and got handed a second place finish, it seems like.
Do you feel like the racing was more tame because of the change with fast repair, or do you feel like it was just naturally cleaner here tonight at Dover?
It did seem very clean. I'm a big fan of taking away the fast repair. I'm one of the people who voted for it, so luckily they've done it, and I like that. I just, I like when you make a mistake, you got to live with that mistake. You don't have that mulligan to go back and grab. So I think it might have changed the racing up a little bit tonight. I think it also might have been just the track. Here we can spread out more than other tracks with the package we have at the moment. So you can kind of get in your own little part of the track and make your own laps. And then it kind of comes down to tire wear and pace. And yeah, it was a good race overall. I'm sure a lot of guys out there were having some good racing. I kind of lucked into this one. So, man, we're just happy to come home with second after that for sure.
Zach, before we let you go, shout out to sponsors and anybody else that you'd like.
yeah, first off, shout out to all you guys up in the booth. You guys do a wonderful job up here calling all the action out here on each and every Saturday night. So it's great to go back and watch for the fans out at home, but not only this, drivers here. So thank you for that. Got a shout out to the admins here at the league. They do a tremendous job, always trying to make stuff better for everybody, and got to give them credit for always working on it. But and then last but not least, my teammates. Well, my only teammate here is Cedric Carter here tonight. Unfortunate ending there for him, but hey, we'll move on to the next one, and we'll see what we can get done. But thank you guys so much.
All righty, that's Zach Hall. Shout out to Nick Crawford for the third, Zach Hall second. I'm going to throw it over to Sam as he interviews the race winner, Brian Johnson.
As we've got Brian Johnson up in the booth. Brian, it's Sam. What a race and what a move on your part to get the race win here tonight.
Yeah, hey guys, how's it going?
I mean, it's going pretty good up here in the booth. Got us a little excited with the move on that of Cedric Hunter. Got the bump and run put on him, and it's a little ironic. He's got his face on your hood, but Brian, what a move there that it was at the end. What was going through your mind setting up for that pass, knowing that that might be the only move you got to get by the 13?
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking because he had a good break with that caution and getting the lead, and I knew it was going to be tough to pass him, but I was slow behind him. I just had to checking up for him, and I felt like I had a run once and he blocked that, so I got another run and he was blocking it again, but I was like, if I got to check up again, I had Nick and Kyle Rochelle breathing down my neck. So I was like, if I feel like if I check up more for him, then I'm gonna get past. And just the way that the race was playing out for me, the whole race, I was like, I can't let that happen. So unfortunately, I had to do that just because of the way this track is and the way the package is, and everybody got stacked up, and um, so it's unfortunate, but I felt like that was my only option at the time, and then so I did it.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, for some eyes, a great move on your part. Others are going to think, a controversy over this. But I mean, from our point of view, just great racing and hard racing out there. But we are looking at the schedule, seeing the next races that are coming up. We saw you won at the Daytona Road Course. You win here tonight. First multi-time winner for this season is yourself, breaking our 5 races, 5 different winner streak. But going into Watkins Glen next week, how are you feeling about that race?
Well, it's definitely going to be a strong suit for me, but the Sonoma Sasquatch is going to be there, so we're going to have to try to keep pace with him. Hopefully, hopefully for me, but not hopefully for him. He has some sort of qualifying debacle again at Watkins Glen, like he did at the Roval, and that'll allow me to kind of put a lead on him. But I doubt that's going to happen again. So we're going to have to honestly, we're going to have to try to keep pace with him. I don't think I'll be leading much in that race, but maybe if we're there at the end, we can just duke it out for the final few laps.
Absolutely, and that being Zach Hall that Brian was
Oh yeah.
referencing. But Brian, before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
I just got to thank my teammate Nick Crawford here tonight. He had a good run, so that was cool to see. And got to thank you guys for putting on a great show as always. All the fans that tuned in, hope you guys enjoyed it. And then of course the admins and every driver here at this league. It's a great place to race in. Definitely appreciate it. Thursday was Veterans Day, so got to give a shout out to all the veterans out there and give them a huge thanks for everything that they've done and still do. And then yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's Brian Johnson in the 28 machine, magnitude 9 team. Congratulations, Brian, on your second win of the season, and good luck next week.
Thank you, sir.
And that being our final 3, again, to interview all of them, thanks for being up in the booth to all 3 drivers, that of Brian Johnson, Nick Crawford, and Zach Hall, as we take a look at what the final unofficial results were here tonight. Brandon, I mean, what a race it was. We was so green for most of this race. We only got to see 2 yellows. One was the end of stage 1. The other, an incident from James Loveland, bringing out our second and only on-track incident to bring out a yellow. But here are our top 10. Brian Johnson, Zach Hall, Nick Crawford, Cedric Hunter, Kyle Rochelle, Vincent Sora able to climb all the way up to 9th, after starting back in 18th on that restart on fresher tires than the rest of the field. Danny Cochran going to get 8th place with Thomas Green in 9th. Sean Hutsteller finishing out the 10th position. But you look at the rest of the field and where drivers lie. You look at that of Brandon Jenks, who had a really good, strong early run. But I think James Loveland, probably the biggest surprise of the fact that he wrecked out and was our only on-track incident yellow. And then also Ethan Smith, who had internet connections. That was our second DNF of the night. But Brandon, what a night, and what are some of your final thoughts of tonight's race?
Well, and shout out to Ryan Bird and Max Foner, too, in that 11th and 12th spot, both up 13. I think with these guys voting to take out the fast repair, we have already begun to see the difference that it makes. I know Zach Hall says tonight was a little bit of both. Yes, the fast repair is gone. These guys giving each other plenty of room, but also Dover being that track that sort of allows the fast guys to be fast up front and the guys behind them kind of single file. We didn't see a whole lot of two wide racing here tonight as these guys continue to battle with this package. But nonetheless, no matter the circumstances, to go as many laps as we did here tonight and only have one on-track caution, a phenomenal job by these drivers, a phenomenal race. Overall, we saw a lot of drivers gain a lot of positions, working their way up through the field. A really good finish there, at least for the viewers. Brian Johnson making the move on Cedric Hunter. Zach Hall taking advantage of that situation as well, sneaking in there a P2. I think there's going to be a lot of drivers here tonight, Sam, walking away with a grin.
Yeah, and there's also going to be some that we might see animosity being moved forward in the next couple of weeks. Again, we got Watkins Glen, Michigan, Las Vegas, then the All-Star break, and then we got the Nashville Fairgrounds on top of that, Nashville Super Speedway in Homestead finishing out the rest of the season. As with tonight being done, going into next week, we are halfway through the regular season of Season 4, and already a lot of drama, but Brian Johnson, the first driver to get 2 wins this season, the driver that had the most wins last season, with no surprise, finding his speed and finding the dominance here tonight, even with his move to get by that is Cedric Hunter. Might be controversial for some. Great racing in our eyes, but man, it just makes the season even more exciting moving forward. Watkins Glen, the next stop for these drivers, but for tonight, to finish things off, we got to throw it over to our producer, Robert Moore Jr., to give our final calls of the night.
All right. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Sam. All right. Thank you, everybody out there, for tuning in here tonight with these guys in the Cup Series every Saturday night at 8:50. Yeah, like you guys said, what a race. What a race. It came down to the end and some beating and banging, and Brian had to do what he had to do. Now, the question comes down to, does Cedric, remember that for the future? Or does he just let it go and says, racing's racing? But if anybody knows Cedric Hunter has been known to be an aggressive blocker, and it goes and shows that here tonight. So we'll have to see what the future holds here on Saturday night with these guys. But hopefully everybody out there enjoyed tonight's show. If you did, you know what to do out there. You can share it to your friends on your favorite social media platform of your choosing. We do much appreciate that. Also, our next televised broadcast, when you go back and watch this, and make sure you tune in tomorrow night. It's going to be with Sim Racing Unleashed. Here the kicker is, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be at Martinsville in the next gen cars. So that's going to be some fun, some beating and banging. And what we seen tonight here at the end, we're going to see it tomorrow night at 7:50 with SRU. So if you're free tomorrow night, make sure you tune in, give us a shout, give us a holler, say hi, share the stream, and and see what kind of action they put on with the next gen cars, and see some short track racing tomorrow night, as we will have David Medina calling the action with Zach Hall. That finished here in second. He'll be calling the action tomorrow at 7:50 Eastern. But with that being said, here at Freaky Fast from the virtual side of Dover, we want to say to everybody out there, have a great rest of your Saturday night. Be safe, enjoy the night, get a good night rest, sleep, enjoy your Sunday, enjoy some sports, as the NASCAR season has ended. So we'll have to see what you want to watch, or watch football, or whatever sport that you watch. But until tomorrow night, have a great Sunday. We like to say here at Freaky Fast, God bless everybody. We love you all. Peace out.